Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about breaking out of React. So let's get into it. Now, this is not a video of me saying that you should not use React. It's not a video about me trying to be all conservative and trying to convince you that, hey, vanilla JavaScript did it right. Let's all be super hipster and not use the frameworks or anything like that. This is me telling you a story about a situation which I think will illustrate a very nice thought. So let's get into it. The other day, my colleague came up to me, and to give you a bit of context, he has been working on a feature that is fairly substantial. Basically, what we are doing right now is talking about different translation options. And so he had the idea of implementing a translation tool type of thing for the translators, basically, who will work on a certain part of the project, right? And so he sat down, and since we were working mostly in React these days, he made a React implementation of this component. And the idea is basically that you click a piece of text and then you can input the different translations that are needed in order to show this piece of information, right? It's easy peasy stuff, right? However, he realized very quickly that there was a bit of an issue. And the issue that he had was that certain components, because he's, the way that he had structured the solution was basically to wrap a piece of text in his own wrapper component, and then have that show this dialog window type of thing. And he had struggled quite a bit with the issue that in the more modern versions of React, you don't actually necessarily have a situation where the child nodes of a parent node are going to be re-rendered just because the parent node is being re-rendered. It used to be the case in the older algorithms that if a state change occurred on a node, you would drop that node and re-render the whole node tree from that point downwards. That's not necessarily true anymore. So he comes to me and asks me to have a look at the problem. And I say, all right, if you are uncertain if you can get this node to re-render so that it can actually do the thing that you're expecting, try this. Try to give it a property of math.random. And he said, why would I do that? And I said, well, it's very easy, because under the hood, the algorithm is going to consider whether or not there are new values coming into the component. And that's your problem. You are re-rendering, you're clicking one component, the parent component, but you can't actually click the thing that you want to click. And that component is not React is going to consider that this component does not need to be re-rendered at this time because it's not getting any state changes. So he tried it. He put in a random value that is being passed in as a fresh thing, basically every time we have a render on the page, and it worked flawlessly because that's the way that it works. Now, so he basically said, okay, cool, Fredrik, this is awesome, but how do I solve this problem now for my use case? And I said, and he's basically asking me how is he going to fix this? And I said, well, this is a little bit of a pickle for you, because this tool that you're building is really only designed for an internal thing. So you don't really want to change your production code to accommodate this tool that you've built. And then I got serious with him for a moment, because he's a really nice guy, but I felt that he had started working on this project a little bit too quickly. I wish we had talked a little bit about it before, and that's why I'm talking to you guys now. So I told him, back in my Ticketmaster days, I had this great, awesome experience, or rather, I wouldn't call it an awesome experience necessarily, but translations are a bit of a bit of a sore spot for me, because I know all too well how difficult it is to manage translations on a web page. And one of the things that I built in order to actually accommodate a bit of this at my previous job was that I created a script virtually that would look for, well, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but basically what it would do, it would identify every piece of translatable text on the page and give that piece of text an orange border, so you could see what pieces of text on the page were actually translatable pieces of text and the name of the variable that is used in order to translate that said piece of text. And I explained to my colleague that this was very easy for me to do. And he said, "Great, did you do it in React?" "No, I did not." And he said, okay, so what do I do? Think about it. Why are you using React for this? What you're in essence trying to do is that you are trying to create an event listener that is hooked in to every piece of text on the page that is supposed to be translatable, and you're basically just looking for a variable in the DOM. And then you need to show a pop-up window where you can input some information, save that, and that's all done. This could be a bookmarklet. This could be something that you don't even have to add to the application itself, but you have, because you are stuck in the mindset that the only way to solve this problem is in React. You're not thinking, dude. You are falling victim to this trend we see these days, where you depend so much on this tool that you don't actually realize that there are other alternatives. And so he said, yeah, okay, I see your point, but now it's kind of too late to do that. And I said, yeah, I agree, because there's too much work invested now. We should just see if we can solve it in some other fashion. And so we tried it, and finally I tried to help out, but unfortunately I was called away for some other stuff that I was working on that I kind of had to prioritize. And I came and talked to him today, and it turns out that in the end, they realized that they couldn't really solve it. So instead, we decided that, it's just one component and it works for almost all other use cases. So we're just going to ignore that and pretend like it's not there, and we'll do a manual translation for that thing. And that I told them that's a good solution, because the amount of time you're investing in this internal tool is actually high. The cost of doing this is actually higher than the value of the thing that you're building. But next time, try to think about these things, or at the very least, if you can, just have a dialogue. I made another video about this exact thing. This is why I argue that whenever you decide to make a technical decision on behalf of your team or your company, explain it first to somebody else. Always explain it to somebody. Doesn't have to be somebody who is senior or anything, just explain it. Because rubber ducking, which is the process of just talking to somebody else about your problem and realizing that there might be issues with that, just having that dialogue is going to catch a lot of the issues that you might cause for yourself. Because I'm there too. There's hundreds of times I've found myself being stuck in a mindset and just thinking in one way, and just by talking to somebody else and getting a slightly different perspective, I immediately realized that, oh damn, I'm going down the wrong route here. I need to rethink this whole thing. And that's what you want to go for. So here's my tip to you guys. Don't get stuck in the mindset that React, for example, that it's the only thing available to you. I know that if you're working in React, the trend is that you only stay in that ecosystem, and for the most part you should. But please do yourself the favor to actually learn the basics, learn real JavaScript, learn how the standards actually work. Because if you don't, you'll find yourself in my colleague's situation. You don't actually know how to solve it in any other way. Have a great day.